Tell all who will hear, the Reaper sails for Mars, and he calls for an iron rain. This is the story of a rebel rising higher than he ever imagined, only to fall farther than he thought possible. Golden Sun, the second chapter in Pierce Brown's Red Rising saga, begins in triumph and ends in blood. Part 1. Bow. Chapters 1 through 11. In his final task at the Academy, Darrow is assigned a war fleet and must overpower his opponent, Carnus au Bellona. It's been almost a year since he has spoken to Mustang, his one-time ally at the Institute, and 2 years since he has been contacted by the Sons of Ares, the rebel group who saved Darrow from execution and surgically carved him from a red into a gold. Reds are the lowest social order in the society, while golds are the highest. Darrow's friends, Roque, Tactus, and Victra, assist him with the training mission. During his time at the Institute, Darrow formed a close bond with Cassius au Bellona, which was destroyed when Darrow was forced to kill Cassius's younger brother Julian. Darrow's ship is manned by blues, pilots, grays, soldiers, and obsidians, large and powerful fighters. Roque argues that Carnus is drawing them into a trap, but the others don't feel Carnus is a threat since Darrow has 7 ships to Carnus's 1. Darrow orders his friends to assume their positions and chants Hic sunt leones, meaning, "Here be lions," the motto of Nero au Augustus, their master and the arch-governor of Mars. Darrow flies into Carnus's trap, and a few of his smaller ships are taken out by Carnus's dummy missiles before Darrow returns fire, quickly eliminating Carnus's ship. The crew celebrates Darrow's victory before a blue notices a blip on the display. Carnus has a hidden ship that he flies directly at Darrow's ship. Darrow grabs onto his advisor, Theodora, bracing against the ship's impact. Tactus, Roque, and Victra take the command escape pod, so Darrow carries Theodora to the pod in his quarters. The ship is filled with panicked low colors, and 6 grays clear a path for Darrow, shooting anyone who interferes. Darrow offers 2 of the 4 seats to the grays, one of whom, Marcel, is upset that Theodora, a pink, is allowed a seat. A higher-ranking gray shoots Marcel, and the 2 highest-ranked grays take the available seats. They escape in the pod, flying through the bodies of the low colors who have been sucked out of the ship. Darrow prepares to shoot himself out of the pod onto Carnus's ship, but the proctors, the heads of the Academy houses, shut him down. Back at the Academy, Darrow learns that 833 members of his fleet died. Guilty about the casualties, he cannot sleep, fearing he will dream about his deceased wife, Io. Roque tries to cheer up Darrow by saying he came in second, but Darrow does not care about the loss of the game, only the loss of lives. Roque counters that the low colors died for a cause, but Darrow disagrees. Still injured, Darrow goes to an empty garden to sit in a hot spring and reflect on past events. Getting out of the water, he finds his clothes and razor weapon missing. 7 members of the Bellona family surround him, and Carnus addresses him by his call sign, Reaper. Darrow warns that they cannot kill him without repercussions, but they don't plan to kill him. They beat Darrow badly. Carnus then urinates on Darrow and threatens him. 2 months later, Darrow is summoned to Augustus's office with Pliny, a Politico, and Leto, a Lancer. They attribute recent propaganda and uncharacteristic bombings to the Sons of Ares. They discuss Ares, whose identity is unknown, and Pliny degrades Darrow's intelligence. Augustus plans to hire suicide bombers to create social divide between red men and women, and subsequently between reds and the other colors and the Sons of Ares to put down the rebellion. Leto is against the plan, feeling it is hypocritical and may make circumstances worse. Augustus isn't worried about the Sons of Ares. Rather, he worries the Bellona will leverage the Sons' actions to take Augustus's governorship. Augustus decides to sell Darrow's contract because Darrow has become a liability. The contract ends in 3 days, and Augustus orders Darrow to attend the upcoming summit on Luna. Pliny argues that Darrow has cost Augustus money and opportunities, and that they want to demonstrate peace with the Bellona family. Darrow recites his past services to the Arch-Governor, but Augustus refuses to change his mind. Darrow is taken to Luna. The Bologna family has placed an unofficial bounty on Darrow's head, and rumors state that Julian's mother, Julia, is on a hunger strike until her family delivers Darrow's heart to her. Darrow thinks back to his time in the Institute when his mission felt easier. Mustang had asked him not to attend the academy, but he did not listen to her. He had requested his friend, Severo, join him at the academy, but Severo was reassigned to Pluto with his group of fighters, the Howlers. Roque wants to buy Darrow's contract, but feels his family will not go against Augustus. Darrow lies and pretends he is not worried. Darrow dislikes Luna for its heavy air and low gravity. The buildings stretch high into the sky, and people pull themselves across rungs running between them. Darrow asks Roque to practice cravat, a form of martial arts, but Roque is attending a conference. A pink man takes Darrow to his room, which Darrow complains is too small. Theodora talks to the pink, who first criticizes Theodora for her boldness, then feels ashamed once he discovers Theodora had been a rose, a highly valued pink. A messenger summons Darrow to meet with Victra. Victra reaffirms she is a friend and complains that he remains distant from her, but close to Roque and Tactus, the latter of whom is opportunistic. Darrow argues he is not friends with Tactus. He had once attempted friendship by gifting Tactus a violin, only to have Tactus turn around and resell it. Victra gives Darrow a note with information for a meeting off the Citadel grounds with the Jackal. Victra, Darrow, and 12 Greys, hired to protect Darrow, board a ship to travel to the meeting with the Jackal. Darrow and Victra are disguised as Obsidians, and the others refer to him as Icarus. Darrow notices rebel graffiti depicting his hanged wife, which causes him a pang of grief. They land and the ground is covered in filthy water and garbage. They enter the bar and meet the Jackal surrounded by his guards, one of whom is a Stained, a rare and powerful obsidian. Victra leaves and Darrow and the Jackal talk. When Darrow is rude, the Jackal points out that Darrow has lost his reputation, and Pliny has emptied his bank accounts. Since he lost at the Institute and was exiled, the Jackal has become a businessman with stakes in the society's infrastructure and media. He summoned Darrow because they share a common enemy, Pliny, who is advising Augustus. The Jackal argues Pliny has been working to separate Darrow and Augustus, and that he has convinced Augustus to take Leto as an heir because Pliny can control Leto. The Jackal also reveals his plans to destroy the Sons of Ares. The Jackal feels the Sons of Ares will become a threat to society, and he wants Darrow to act as the figurehead for his fight against Ares. Darrow argues his reputation was destroyed by the Bologna attack and says he cannot trust the Jackal. The Jackal offers information about his twin sister Mustang, but Darrow refuses and threatens the Jackal with death if Mustang is hurt. When the Jackal reaches out to shake Darrow's hand, Darrow returns the gesture and agrees to work together. The Jackal gives Darrow an assignment to kill a Gold who is blackmailing him, with the hopes that Darrow will come into favor with the Sovereign, Octavia Aulun. Darrow lays out his conditions. He wants to meet the Jackal's financial backer and have Severo and the Howlers brought back. The Jackal agrees. A woman approaches the table and Darrow recognizes her as Evie, a pink woman from the Sons of Ares. The Jackal hires Evie to take Darrow upstairs, and upon hearing the name, Evie recognizes Darrow as well. They go upstairs where there are more members of the organization, and Evie reveals her plan to kill the Jackal. Darrow steals grav boots and a datapad, then pulls the Jackal from the bar as it explodes. He tracks Evie to an abandoned factory and yells at her for killing low colors. Mickey, the violet carver who turned Darrow into a Gold, agrees Evie has become a monster. Evie explains Mickey works for the Sons of Ares now. She brags about killing the Jackal before Darrow reveals he is still alive. Harmony, another member of the Sons, joins in and tells Darrow that Dancer, his friend, is dead. Dancer, she says, enslaved Mickey to carve an army of Gold soldiers. Evie rationalizes their treatment of Mickey by arguing that he bought and sold children, but Darrow counters that everyone sins, including Evie. Darrow asks if Mickey carved Titus, who was killed by Cassius at the Institute, but Mickey did not. Harmony and Evie are upset that Darrow doesn't agree with their actions. Evie wants to hurt Golds, citing how pinks are conditioned as children by receiving implants that cause constant pain if they don't obey a Gold. Darrow resists their ideas, arguing that their focus should be on dismantling the society rather than killing individual Golds, and he demands to speak to Ares. Sending Mickey and Evie out, Harmony explains that Ares will not meet with him and that no one knows his true identity. She pulls up a map and says Ares' new plans involve bombings. Harmony wants Darrow to attack the Golds during the gala on the final day of the summit. Darrow refuses until Harmony shows him a video from Eo's hanging, in which Eo's final words to her sister were that she was pregnant and to hide the crib from Darrow. Darrow mourns the loss of his unborn child and the family life he could have had. His grief turns to rage as he blames the Golds and the society for the destruction of his family. They made a woman choose death for her and her unborn child over a life of slavery. All that for power. He agrees to Harmony's plan. The Jackal believes Pliny ordered the attack on the bar. They agree to continue on as if the bombing had not occurred, so Darrow returns to the Citadel. Darrow further isolates himself from his friends and the intensity of his grief. Theodora suggests Darrow sleep with roses, but he refuses to use pinks. The media reports the bombings by the Sons of Ares, depicting the Sons as terrorist Reds and the society as triumphant and good. Augustus is questioned about the spread of the Sons' activity from Mars to Luna. Darrow wears a copy of his Pegasus pendant, disguising a bomb, rather than the original, which holds a lock of Eo's hair. Darrow goes to Roke and they discuss Tactus, who has many vices and comes from a scandalous family. Darrow apologizes for being distant, but Roke feels it is just Darrow's nature. Roke plans to buy Darrow's contract, and when Darrow asks if Roke ever feels lost, Roke tells him a story about two pigeons who are in love and separated from each other, but find each other in the end. They stand to depart, and Roke says Darrow will recover from his circumstances, declaring Darrow his best friend. As they shake hands, Darrow injects Roke with a sedative. On his way into the gala, Darrow acts calm and collected, and he informs the others that Roke is not in attendance because he feels ill. The Jackal arrives and joins Augustus's party, who are upset when they discover they must share a lift with the Falths. In the gala, Darrow tries to focus on his hatred for the Golds, but he does not believe that bombing the gala will help the Sons' rebellion. Antonia, Victra's sister, comes to Darrow and offers him a drink. When he refuses, she warns him that the Bologna family is coming for him. Part 2. Break. Chapters 12 through 24. Darrow retrieves the bomb from under Augustus's table, then calls for a duel against Cassius. Octavia allows it, declaring it a fight to the death. Darrow argues he is fighting for Augustus's honor, rather than Mustang's love. He can get revenge for the death of Claudius, who was the son of Augustus killed by Carnus, and also help Augustus maintain favor with Octavia. Darrow cuts his face, and Augustus offers his blessing, and smears Darrow's blood under his own eye. Mustang talks to Darrow, calling him unrecognizable and insane. She criticizes him for not trusting that she plans to use Cassius. She says she will ask Octavia to end the duel before Cassius kills him. Cassius and Darrow trade insults, demoralizing each other before commencing their duel, with Cassius dominating until Darrow reveals a massive secret. Darrow trained under Lorne Au Arcos the whole time before the academy. Darrow overpowers Cassius and taunts the Bologna family. Octavia stops the fight, exposing her favoritism for the Bolognas. When Octavia says the duel may end in surrender, Augustus challenges, claiming that the law states rules cannot be changed during a duel, which Daxo and Cavax Au Telemanus second. Octavia argues her word is law, but in doing so, she oversteps the bounds of her position. Darrow cuts off Cassius's arm. Augustus then calls for Darrow to kill Cassius, but Mustang stops him. He lowers his razor but is charged by the Bologna family. Mustang deflects the attack, and the rest of the Golds start fighting, ignoring Octavia's pleas for peace. Augustus's lancers protect him, and Leto is killed by Carnus after the jackal poisons Leto. Augustus and his supporters escape, but Mustang remains behind. Darrow carries a wounded praetor, a high-ranking military Gold, while the others follow him. Augustus's greys and obsidians are gone, and the communication network is down. Feuding Golds hunt each other, and Lilath and Scipio of the Fald family kill the Thorn family, including the children. Augustus orders Darrow to save him and to drop the praetor. They run into the forest and fight with small bands of Golds, including the Falds. Tactus kills Scipio. At the hangar, they find their ships gone, and Orange says the ships had been forced to leave hours ago, indicating that Octavia had predetermined plans to move against Augustus. Augustus's band of 70 Golds is surrounded by 100 Praetorians, including the Rage Knight, who is now Fitchner. Augustus accuses Fitchner of doing Octavia's bidding, but Fitchner is guided by his own conscience and argues they are all servants. After bragging that he killed Augustus's obsidians, Fitchner hits first Augustus and then the jackal with a stun fist before addressing Darrow and placing them under arrest. Octavia rose to her position as the sovereign after killing her father, who had previously occupied the throne. Darrow meets with her and says he disobeyed her orders because Octavia showed weakness and favoritism. Aja, the Protean knight, and Fitchner are in the room, and Lysander, Octavia's young grandson, enters. Darrow, suddenly shameful, argues he was driven to attack Cassius by his survival instinct. Accusing Octavia of breaking the law, Darrow says she owes him an apology. Octavia recognizes Lorne's philosophy in his words and reveals that Lorne is Lysander's grandfather. Octavia offers Darrow a new home and promises not to abandon him like Augustus did. Darrow refuses and makes to fight her obsidian guards, but stops when Lysander implores him to stay. Octavia sends Lysander to get a small box so that she can play a game of honesty with Darrow. The box Lysander fetches contains 2 scorpion-like creatures called oracles. Lysander cuts Darrow's sleeve open and tells Darrow he will be fine as long as he doesn't lie. Octavia pricks Darrow's wrist with a needle, and one of the oracles latches onto the wound, wraps around his wrist, and lifts its stinger. The other oracle is wrapped around Octavia's arm. Octavia gives Darrow a choice between playing the game or death, and he chooses to play. They exchange questions and answers, and Darrow answers carefully and avoids questions that might give away his secrets. Octavia asks who Ares is, which Darrow does not know. Octavia suggests Ares is Darrow's master. Darrow's worry fades when Octavia asks if Augustus is Ares, knowing he can honestly answer no. Mustang enters, interrupting the game. For his final question, Darrow asks if Octavia planned to have Augustus assassinated at the gala. She answers no. Before Octavia can be stung, Fitchner cuts the oracle from her wrist. Mustang accosts Octavia for lying and plotting against Mustang's family. Octavia orders Mustang to sit and reasons with her that Augustus is a threat to the compact of the society. Octavia shows them a video of a riot occurring on Venus. The sons of Ares have infiltrated Venus, but the sovereign plans to quarantine the planet and kill them. Octavia thinks that by killing Augustus, who ordered the death of Ao, she can quell the sons of Ares. Conceding, Mustang and Darrow agree to the plan. Fitchner takes Darrow to his new room, congratulates him, and tells him to enjoy his new life before leaving. A female Pink is in Darrow's bed, but he ignores her and paces the room thinking of Ao and Mustang. His room is filled with extravagant luxuries, and he has been given ample money. A male Pink delivers a small box, then takes the female Pink out of the room. The box holds a hollow cube with a message from Mustang to take cover. The power goes out and Severo and 9 Howlers break into Darrow's room. Mustang had sent for the Howlers weeks ago as part of her plan to protect her family from Octavia. Severo tells Darrow that Mustang may have summoned them, but they came for Darrow. They want to follow him into war. While Mustang gets a ship, Darrow needs to formulate an escape plan. Severo reveals he has taken Lysander hostage. With Darrow in the lead, he, Severo, and the Howlers jump out of the window, and go to where Augustus and his supporters are being held, but they are gone. Instead, they find a room of murdered pinks, violets, and browns. Augustus's people are fighting Bolognas and Praetorians, and Darrow's group jumps into the fight. Outnumbered, Darrow and the others use their grav boots to leave the fight as Aja arrives. A Praetorian gold follows Darrow with an obsidian and asks why Darrow is not in his room. Darrow suggests he is operating on the sovereign's orders, but the Praetorian knows he is lying. The Praetorian takes him to Aja, who says most of Augustus's party are alive and hiding in the lagoon, though they are nearly out of oxygen. Aja tells Darrow to return to his room, and they will forgive him for killing the sovereign's greys. Darrow refuses and reveals Lysander, bound and gagged, demanding Aja stand down and let Augustus's party escape or Darrow will kill him. Aja is disgusted by Darrow, but Lysander says he knows it's all part of the game. Mustang arrives with the ship, and Aja allows Augustus and his supporters to escape. Darrow and Quinn remain with Aja while the others board the ship, and Octavia speaks to Darrow through Aja, warning him to use the bargaining chip of Lysander wisely. As Darrow and Quinn make to depart, Aja grabs Quinn and punches her in the head, repeatedly causing her to seize. Knowing that Darrow will have to choose between helping Quinn and keeping his weapon trained on Lysander. Darrow keeps hold of Lysander as the Jackal returns for Quinn, and the three of them escape to the ship. The Jackal calls for Yellows, medical personnel, that might be on board to save Quinn. Using Darrow's datapad, the Jackal sees Quinn's brain is swelling. He has Howlers hold Quinn down to prepare her for surgery, and orders Roke, who loves Quinn, to talk to her. Roke tells her the story of the two pigeons who were in love. The only hope of saving Quinn is to get her to a medical station. Darrow, Severo, and Tactus go to the passenger hold, and Severo, who secretly loves Quinn, attacks Tactus for speaking flippantly about Quinn's injuries. Victra arrives with Lysander, and they go into the cockpit, where they find Augustus, Pliny, Cavax, and Mustang. After updating them, Darrow says Octavia's offer was tempting since it demonstrated that Octavia, unlike Augustus, respects him. Augustus apologizes, then addresses Lysander, comparing him to Claudius. Tactus offers to take Lysander to the passenger bay, but betrays the others and flies away to take Lysander back to Octavia. Darrow regrets trusting Tactus against his initial instincts. A blue pilot tells Augustus there is little chance of escaping Octavia's fleet. While Augustus resigns himself to the idea they will all die, Darrow forms a plan and commands the pilot to fly closer to one of the ships in the fleet, the Vanguard. Darrow and Severo climb into robotic suits called star shells. Victra kisses Darrow while helping him with his helmet. Mustang fires Darrow and Severo like missiles at the Vanguard. They fly through space and crash into the bridge of the enemy ship. Darrow confirms Severo is alive, then vomits in his helmet from the impact. Several members of the Vanguard crew are sucked into space before the emergency system seals the bridge. Darrow feels guilty for killing low colors. A group of golds, grays, and obsidians attack Darrow and Severo, who fight back, protecting the blues. Once the attackers are killed, Darrow demotes the blue captain and orders the others to allow Mustang's ship to come into the hangar. Darrow announces to the entire crew that he is renaming the ship the Pax. He says he will not empty the ship, as the rules of war dictate. Instead, he asks that the low colors of the ship fight against the remaining golds. Darrow says over the intercom of the ship, "If I vent you into space, there will be no one to stop them from killing me. So you see, you are my salvation, and I am yours." The low colors attack their gold overlords, but a group of remaining golds use a heat drill to break into the cabin. They are stopped and killed by a Stained, who calls Darrow a godchild. The Stained, named Ragnar, enters the bridge and offers his services to Darrow. Darrow ceremonially accepts and wipes the blood Ragnar offers onto his brow. Darrow requests a volunteer blue captain. Although multiple blues step forward, he gives the role to the first, a woman named Orion, who addresses Darrow as boy and only has experience working in the low-level docks. He asks her to get them to Augustus's fleet with minimal casualties, and he lets her take command of the ship. In another announcement, Darrow explains that Octavia broke the compact of the Society by attempting to kill Augustus, which is why he has retaliated by taking the ship. Ragnar fights in the hangar, and Mustang, the Howlers, and the Telemanuses join the fight. With Orion commanding the ship, they fight their way through Octavia's fleet. Mustang tells them Quinn is dead. Sevro flees, and Roke demands Darrow look at Quinn's body. Darrow gives the Jackal a recording device the Sons of Ares had given him, so the Jackal can create propaganda against Octavia. Exhausted, Darrow helps tend the wounded, after which Mustang fetches him to meet with Sevro. Darrow tells Sevro that Quinn cared for him, which Sevro knows. Sevro explains that Fitchner added Quinn to the House Mars because she was kind and he thought she could temper the others. Sevro scorns the Society and Darrow. He tells him, "I came for you because he told me what you are." Nervous, Darrow questions his meaning, and Sevro tells Darrow to turn on the jam field so they cannot be overheard. Sevro forces Darrow to guess who sent him, and Darrow guesses Mustang, then Lorne and Fitchner, before Sevro spits in his face and threatens to leave. In a leap of faith, Darrow guesses Ares. Sevro gives him a whisper gem, a small crystal containing a message from Ares, who explains Harmony has betrayed the Sons of Ares. Ares orders Darrow to continue his current path of sowing chaos among the Golds and says they haven't reached out before, because Darrow was being watched by Pliny, the Jackal, and Octavia's spies. Dancer, who is alive, sends a secondary message that Darrow's family is safe. Darrow sobs and hugs Sevro. Sevro does not care that Darrow is a Red, nor does Sevro support the Golds, arguing that the only people to ever treat me decently are people who don't have a reason to. Low colors and you. I think it's time to return the favor. No one else knows Sevro is in the Sons of Ares, and Sevro argues that while some may support the mission, Roke and others will not. Victra comes to Darrow to take him to the largest room. Although her mother and sister are siding with the Sovereign, Victra supports Augustus and Darrow. Darrow questions why Victra came to escort him to the room, suspecting ulterior motives. However, Victra wanted to check on Darrow because she cares for him. She kisses him, then they talk and exchange small truths about themselves. Darrow tells her he enjoys music and fruit, and Victra says she likes the smell of stone before rain. That night, Darrow cannot sleep, and he wanders through the ship and finds Mustang in the mess hall. The chef, a Brown, brings food to Mustang and Darrow and acts shocked when Darrow thanks him. Darrow remarks that Mustang doesn't like bacon, and she admits that she's been eating it every day because it reminds her of Darrow. They talk, and the conversation turns to failings in the design of the Society. Mustang tells Darrow about a gold and an obsidian who went to a carver for alterations so they could conceive a child and who were later executed for the crime. Since such stories are hidden, the people who commit similar feats think they are the first. Mustang wonders when the Sons of Ares will find and publish the stories the same way they broadcasted Eo's story. Mustang's relationship with Cassius was part of her plan to protect her family and Darrow. She manipulated Cassius into loving her, and she was happy with her plan until she saw Darrow at the gala. Mustang warns Darrow not to trust the Jackal, saying, "He is the monster they don't know how to write stories about." Darrow returns to his room, and Ragnar, who stands guard, warns him a gold is inside. He enters and finds the Jackal. They reaffirm their alliance and discuss the need to eliminate Pliny and the desire to spread war among the Golds. Part 3. Conquer. Chapters 25 through 39. A month after they escape Luna, Darrow and the others are still running from Octavia, who had arrived at Mars first. Many of the Golds who had supported Darrow have pulled back and formed alliances against him. Augustus calls a meeting to discuss their circumstances, and Mustang arrives an hour late. Pliny believes they should flee for 6 months until another supportive fleet arrives. Darrow argues power is all that matters. They need to demonstrate their power to gain support. They need a cause to provide motive for others to rebel. He suggests they attack commerce-based colonies and scare them into supporting Augustus. Darrow plans to start with Ganymede, which has a powerful weapon called a Moonbreaker. Pliny warns that invading Ganymede will result in war against the Society, but Augustus asks Darrow to continue explaining his plan. Darrow suggests they attack the training facilities so they can hold the students for ransom. Mustang calls Darrow insane, and Augustus lashes out at her for acting childish, but admires the way she defends herself against Pliny's insults. Mustang supports Darrow, saying Octavia will kill them if they attempt a peace agreement. Augustus agrees and orders a supporter to lead Octavia's fleet on a chase while he attacks Ganymede. He instructs Mustang to collect the students from the academy. He tells his supporters to make him a king, then dismisses them. Afterwards, Augustus asks Darrow if he is trying to be a social reformer. Darrow denies it, claiming he supports the current organization of society, save for a few corrupt exceptions like Pliny. Unconvinced, Augustus shows footage of Darrow's possession of the Pax, drawing attention to the spark of hope in the low color's expressions. He tells Darrow to stay a warrior rather than becoming political, ordering him to go to Lorne, who loves Darrow, to gain his support by force if necessary. Daxo and Cavax wait for Darrow to finish with Augustus. They don't blame him for the jackal murdering Pax, and they offer him help. Darrow accepts the offer, saying he will have instructions soon. Darrow informs the jackal of the new plan, then steers the ship toward Europa. Roke approaches Darrow and asks why Darrow sedated him, to which Darrow responds he was trying to protect Roke. Darrow agrees that he was wrong and sincerely apologizes before Roke walks away. Darrow arrives on Europa and meets with Lorne. Lorne talks of his father, his own health and strength, and the birth of his great-granddaughter the previous night. He's lost too many loved ones and feels he's lived too long, telling Darrow, "Hands, I think, were not meant to feel so much." Lorne invites Darrow to meet his pet griffin, Icarus, and he says his family is hidden. Darrow asks Lorne to help them fight against Octavia. Darrow thinks Lorne left society because it's sick, and Lorne corrects him saying it's dead. Lorne explains Augustus forced his way into power. His entire family had been killed, but Augustus was saved so the old family did not die out. He formed a plan with Octavia, and he married Iona au Bellona, then killed her the night of their wedding and stole the arch-governorship from House Silas. With Augustus's support, Octavia killed her father and claimed the role of sovereign. Lorne says he will not enter into another war. They find Icarus sleeping. Lorne questions if Darrow is in love with Mustang, saying he could understand why Darrow would fight for her, but Darrow says his fight is not about her. Waking Icarus, Lorne points to Darrow's ship, which is surrounded by enemy fighters led by Aja. They've arrived days prior, expecting Darrow to approach Lorne for help. Lorne offers Darrow the chance to escape on Icarus, but Darrow refuses both the offer of escape and Lorne's plea to live out his life in peace. Anticipating Pliny's treason, Darrow had leaked details of his plan to visit Lorne and developed contingencies for the subsequent attack. As Aja and several fighters approach, Lorne calls out that he is not part of the fight, but she says he must pick a side. Tactus appears and knows Severo is nearby. Darrow calls for Severo to come out with the Howlers. When Darrow was walking with Lorne, he had dropped bomb spikes onto the ground, which he now detonates, killing all but Tactus, Aja, and 3 Praetorians. Aja runs and Roke yells at them to catch her, but Darrow tells Severo to hold for a moment before sending the Howlers after her. Roke complains again, and Darrow tells him to pay attention to his own fight. Tactus and Aja hide, and Darrow realizes their next plan is to kill Lorne's family. They rush to where Lorne's family is hidden and find Tactus. Darrow offers Tactus forgiveness and friendship, and Tactus drops his weapon, falls to his knees, and cries. Darrow believes if Tactus can change, so can other Golds. Lorne's family is taken to safety, leaving only Tactus, Darrow, and Lorne in the room. In retaliation for threatening his family, Lorne kills Tactus. Along with Lorne's fleet and family, Darrow and the Pax leave Europa. The Telemanuses have been given several of the Bellona ships they defeated. Citing Ragnar's valiant performance and leadership in the fight, Darrow asks if the Telemanuses think Ragnar could lead a group of fighters in place of a Gold, but they do not see a need for it. The Telemanuses leave the room, and Orion tells Darrow that he overstepped by suggesting Ragnar take a leadership role. Mustang meets Darrow and the others, except for Roque, who does not answer Darrow's summons. She informs them that Augustus and the Jackal were captured and that Pliny has betrayed them. As a result, they have lost 20 bannermen and control of the fleet. Pliny captured Mustang and offered to marry her, but Mustang refused, took one of his eyes, and escaped. They make plans to move the conversation into the war room so the others can join. An orange, Scyther, says he can salvage Mustang's ship, find any trackers on it, and send Pliny in the wrong direction. Darrow allows Scyther to try, then tells Orion to take command of the fleet. Mustang gives Pliny's eyeball to Severo. Mustang visits Tactus's body, which Roque has not yet left. They update Roque and invite him to the meeting, but Roque ignores the invitation and consoles Mustang about the capture of her father and brother. Roque blames Darrow for Tactus's death, saying, "Everything costs something, Darrow. Perhaps you'll soon tire of making your friends pay." Mustang defends Darrow, and Roque counters that he does not want to be a warrior. He reveals that Tactus had not sold the violin Darrow gifted him. He kept it and practiced in secret. Kissing Tactus, Roque leaves, and Mustang warns Darrow to fix the divide in his friendship with Roque. In the war room, Mustang shows them a recording of Augustus's capture. Victra's mother had fought against Augustus, and Victra reaffirms her loyalty to Augustus. Many want her removed from the council, but Roque threatens to leave if they reject Victra. Darrow agrees with Roque, and the meeting continues. They need to rescue Augustus, take back their fleet, then take back Mars. Mustang wakes Darrow from sleep as he's dreaming of Eo. Ragnar is guarding Darrow's door, and Darrow orders him to go to his room and rest. Darrow and Mustang make small talk about music, and Mustang says her father has nightmares about robots, which amuses Darrow. Mustang notes that Darrow seems disconnected from the Golds' history. Darrow responds that Mustang too stands apart among Golds, citing her dissertation in which she noted specialization is limiting. Darrow is uncomfortable because he cannot lie to Mustang, and she notices a subtle change in his demeanor, asking if he is thinking of the woman he had lost, whom she has never previously mentioned. Darrow doesn't answer, and Mustang, angered by Darrow's emotional distance, yells at him for pushing her away. She wants him to ask her to stay, but he doesn't, and she leaves. Taking Pliny's supply ship, Darrow and a small crew depart to save Augustus. Lorne and Darrow talk, and Lorne refers to Ragnar as an it. Angry, Darrow demands Lorne treat Ragnar with respect. Lorne concedes but warns Darrow that men do not change and that the colors exist for a reason. Darrow sees Lorne's thinking as outdated and thinks Lorne, raised to love the society, cannot fully work against it. Darrow argues that Golds can change and that before Lorne dies, he will understand it was wrong to kill Tactus. Darrow asks Ragnar what he wants, but Ragnar says only Golds can want. Obsidians are raised to see Golds as gods, which helps ensure their loyalty. Darrow wants Ragnar to be free and calls him brother, but Ragnar disagrees and calls him master. Darrow exchanges smears of blood with Ragnar and reasserts their brotherhood. He then releases Ragnar from his service and tells him he must choose for himself, whatever his choice may be. Darrow explains Golds have lied to and manipulated Obsidians. He reveals that he is a Red, that Golds killed his wife, and that he is with the sons of Ares. He walks away without asking Ragnar to keep his secret. The supply ship lands, and Darrow and the other fighters, including Ragnar, walk through the hangar, unimpeded by the low colors. They meet Greys, and Darrow orders them to go with Mustang to the engineering bay. An alarm sounds, but they push forward to the brig, and Darrow's friends easily suppress the guards. Severo forces each prisoner to thank Darrow before letting them out. Darrow talks with the Jackal and notices Roque's reaction upon realizing their familiarity. They take the newly freed prisoners and meet Mustang among a number of low colors. Severo connects to the ship's announcement system and taunts Pliny, but Ragnar stops him, annoyed. They drill holes through the floors of the ship to reach Pliny and the others who turned against Augustus. Darrow says he has come for Pliny, and Lorne threatens to kill everyone if anyone gets close to Darrow. Pliny screams for them to kill Darrow, and a man lunges but is killed by his neighbor. Darrow accuses Pliny of betrayal, then slaps him twice. He walks away, letting the others at the table kill Pliny. Before leaving, Darrow gives the crew on the ship a message. Tell all who will hear, the Reaper sails to Mars, and he calls for an iron rain. Darrow gains more followers after his call for an iron rain, a war tactic in which fighters are shot from ships docked in the air to battle on the ground. Although he presents a strong facade, Darrow is scared. He notes the apathy among Golds, but believes they can change. Darrow delivers a speech to rally the troops, playing into the Golds' love of power, and he directs them to spare the low colors and maintain the infrastructure of Mars. Darrow suggests that the Jackal is not as bad as he thinks, as he was captured helping Mustang escape. The Whites, spiritual leaders of the society, ceremoniously walk among the Golds. Before battle and cut their hands, the Golds wipe the blood on their faces and helmets. Darrow lies about wanting to fight Cassius, feeling embarrassed by his actions against the Bolognas at the gala. The fighters disperse to prepare for battle. The Telemanuses tell Darrow not to trust the Jackal, and he replies that he only trusts friends. Orion is concerned that the Sovereign's forces have not moved against them. Roke suggests they move their attack, but Darrow refuses, arguing Aegea's collapse will bring down other cities. Darrow and Roke briefly reconnect. Darrow admits his fear and apologizes for all the ways he has failed to do right by Roke, calling Roke his dearest friend. Lorne tells Darrow to be a better person if he survives the war, and admits that he shouldn't have killed Tactus. Darrow doesn't blame Lorne for killing Tactus and suggests Lorne can teach Lysander peace. Darrow has a brief conversation with Victra, then Theodora, who places a clip with a red flower into Darrow's hair. Sevro tells Darrow he sent a message to the Sons of Ares but does not know if it was received. Darrow entrusts the battle in the sky to Roke, Victra, and Orion. He expresses concern to Sevro that Ares is not real, and Sevro howls, a sign of the Sons of Ares, and numerous people of all colors, including Gold, howl in return. Darrow sees that the family flags have been replaced with those decorated with sling blades and wolves. The low colors have supported him because he gave them the choice. Darrow forbids Sevro from killing the arch-governor, but Sevro argues Darrow does not need Augustus. Jupiter, who had been a proctor when Darrow was at the Institute, says he has been sneaking into Mars and gathering information. He informs Darrow that Bologna is commanding the enemy fleet and says if they kill the Bolognas, the fight will be over. When Mustang expresses concern for her father's safety, Darrow assures her they will use him as leverage rather than kill him. A fearful Darrow and 1,000 others are dressed in star shells and placed in spit tubes to be fired at Mars so they can attack the city under its force field. Darrow concentrates on his pendant and thinks of Eo. He and his friends talk lightheartedly over the communication network, but Roke stops laughing and turns his focus onto the battle. Darrow and the others are fired from the packs. As he flies through space, Darrow sees Victra's mother switch sides and attack the Bologna fleet. Some die flying through the atmosphere, and Darrow wishes he could have lived a quiet family life with Eo. Approaching the ground, they activate their grav boots and destroy the ripwings that followed them. They land and regroup to form a plan because they have landed far from their target. Using the low gravity, they leap their way closer to the city, fighting the enemy forces targeting Darrow. Darrow flies higher to better hear Roke on the comms, and Roke tells him Octavia is on Mars. Darrow admits that is why he wants to strike Aegea. Aja had been allowed to escape so they could track her and Octavia. Darrow plans to capture Octavia and destabilize the society. Mustang comes to Darrow and they discuss the lack of resistance. Darrow directs everyone to focus on capturing Octavia, and they dash forward toward the walled-off citadel, where the Reds and the Sons of Ares have dug a secret passage through the river under the wall. Darrow and his crew go through the access tunnel, but when they come out of the water on the other side, a Brown deploys an EMP globe and Obsidians rush to attack. Screams for him to stop. Darrow drops down from the wall and sprints to the shuttle pads to catch Octavia, who's accompanied by Aja, Karnas, and Fitchner. Darrow jumps and grabs onto their ship as it flies off. Fitchner suggests they ransom Darrow, but Octavia orders Aja to kill him. Darrow drops a pulse grenade when Octavia orders the pilot to roll the ship. Octavia tells Fitchner to record Darrow's death, but when Fitchner suggests they allow Darrow to join them, Octavia decides Fitchner will kill him instead of Aja. Darrow is further injured by Karnas but manages to kill him. He collapses when Aja punches him. Darrow faints and is woken by Fitchner, who complains that he had things under control until Darrow interfered. Fitchner tells Darrow that he is Ares. He sets off the pulse grenade and flies off with Darrow. Having been treated with skin grafts, Darrow wakes up with Mustang cuddling him. He reminisces about childhood when was awoken each day by the sound of the front door closing when his father left for work. He wakes Mustang, who tells him a week has passed. Octavia was wounded but escaped, and Augustus was saved. Roque earned a significant fleet from his efforts in the battle, and people are questioning his future loyalty, although Darrow believes he will remain loyal to them. Mustang appoints herself as Darrow's politico, so she can help him navigate the political world. Severo is with Fitchner, and Lorne has taken on Victra as his next protege. The prominent families of Mars have united, and Augustus has offered reformers a political foothold. Cassius and his mother are missing, and the rest of the Bolognas are dead. Mustang advises Darrow to end his agreement with the Jackal. When the conversation turns to the many deaths, Darrow sobs. Mustang comforts him, then they make love. Darrow and Mustang join their friends, talking and joking. They spend the day together, and when Roque separates from the group, Mustang urges Darrow to follow. Darrow apologizes to Roque again, admitting he took Roque for granted. Roque says he offered Darrow true friendship, accepting both his light and dark sides, and says that he is a better person than Darrow. Darrow lies, saying he would die to bring back Quinn and Tactus. Roque begins to explain why he was assigned House Mars at the Academy, but Severo interrupts, saying something urgent has come up and insisting Darrow join him. Roque tells Darrow to go and that it takes years to repair a friendship. Severo reveals that Harmony, Evie, and Mickey have been captured by the Jackal. Darrow and a small crew fly to the Jackal's location in the mountains, where they meet Victra. Darrow, Ragnar, and Victra go to the Jackal, who complains about the complexities of arranging supply shipments. The Jackal has taken Attica, even though Augustus wanted to offer it to someone else. The Jackal wants Darrow to film more propaganda, and Darrow agrees and offers the Jackal and Victra gifts. He gives Victra a bottle of perfume that smells like stone before rain. As the Jackal opens his gift, an alarm sounds and a Grey enters, announcing a security breach. A grenade explodes, and Severo and his Howlers, all in disguise, attack and threaten the Jackal for access codes. Darrow pretends to fight against them, but both sides intentionally miss. When the attackers leave, the Jackal explains that the intruders came to rescue 3 members of the Sons of Ares that he is holding captive, believing they attacked him on Luna. Darrow accuses the Jackal of disrespecting their partnership, arguing the attack was too advanced for the Sons of Ares. Darrow asks Victra how the intruders gained access to the Jackal. After checking the comms, the Jackal sees a gold Sun Hua is gone and assumes she betrayed him. Darrow knows that Sun Hua is dead and on the departing ship that they watch fly away. Darrow reunites with Dancer, a fellow Red in the Sons of Ares. Dancer tells Darrow his family is safe and explains that Harmony went rogue after spying on senators and witnessing their depravity. The Sons of Ares' headquarters was attacked as a result of her actions, and Fitchner killed all the attackers. Mickey was tortured by the Jackal, and while he claims he did not tell the Jackal any information, Darrow worries that the Jackal might have found information in Mickey's lab. Mickey apologizes to Darrow, but Darrow calls Mickey his friend, praising him for wanting to become a better person. Fitchner explains he became Ares after his red wife, Bryn, was killed. They had sought help from a carver to alter her reproductive system so they could have children, and she was killed when the Golds discovered her alterations. Fitchner did not tell Titus and Darrow about each other, so they would not put each other in more danger. Fitchner explains that Reds must lead the rebellion because Reds understand love. Fitchner tells Darrow to allow Augustus to adopt him and to help Augustus become the sovereign. When Augustus dies, Darrow will become sovereign and will be able to overturn the society. Darrow doesn't want to recede back to isolation, but Fitchner promises to communicate frequently and to place other members of the Sons of Ares close to Darrow. Darrow wants to return to his childhood home, Lycos first. He plans to bring Mustang with him. Fitchner thought Darrow's feelings for Mustang were part of his act and is upset to discover that they are genuine. Severo offers to kill Mustang if she rejects Darrow's extension of trust. Darrow returns to Lycos and, with Ragnar as a guard, and visits a garden where he buried Ao. Even though he knows her body is no longer there, he knows he must move on and let her go. Darrow meets with the mine magistrate from his past, Pogonus, a copper, who strives and fails to impress Darrow. Ragnar criticizes the mine's productivity, which flusters Pogonus. Pogonus argues the Reds are rebellious and he has been following the protocols to subdue them. Darrow orders Pogonus to throw a feast for the Red miners, and Darrow supplies the provisions. Darrow watches the party from another room and recognizes most of the people, including his brother Kieran. Mustang joins him and criticizes the corrupt management of Lycos. She has written legislation to improve the Reds' circumstances. She asks why they are there, and Darrow tells her that this is the mine where the girl sang the forbidden song. Darrow anxiously leads Mustang through Lycos. She questions how he knows his way, and it asks how far she wants to be let into his life. She says, all the way, so he hands her a hollow cube and leaves her in the hallway as he enters his old home. The house is quiet except for a tea kettle whistling on the stove. Scared, Darrow considers leaving but then sees his mother Deanna. Deanna recognizes him and she holds him while he cries, then fetches the tea kettle. Mustang has left and Severo sends a message asking if he should kill her, but Darrow cannot give the order. Deanna knew Darrow's uncle, Canarel, saved Darrow from execution, but not that Darrow had turned gold. She says Narrel fell down a mine shaft and died, but she does not believe he is dead. Leanna, Darrow's sister, is remarried and has 2 children. Kieran, widowed when his first wife died in childbirth, is also remarried to Dio, Ao's sister. Deanna worries the mine is failing, but Darrow, who knows Pogonus is faking the failure to control the rebels, tells her not to worry. Darrow explains what he has done, and Deanna admits her dislike of Io for manipulating Darrow into fighting her battles. Darrow argues Ao was right, but Deanna only cares about Darrow, not about what is right. She doesn't see the point in freedom because the mines are all the Reds know. He asks if loving 2 people is possible, but he cannot get an answer, because Kieran's daughter comes downstairs. Darrow conceals himself, and Deanna tells the child she was praying for Darrow. She says the dead can always hear them. That is why they sing, so the dead will know they still have joy. According to the tracker Severo placed on Mustang, she left in a ship after watching the video on the hollow cube of Darrow's carving. Darrow wanders through Lycos, unwilling to order Severo and Ragnar to kill Mustang. He calls Mustang on his datapad, but hears her approach behind him. Mustang, holding a weapon, orders Darrow to face her. He complies and asks her why she came back, but she refuses to answer. He explains his story and they discuss Titus. Darrow says he might have ended up as evil as Titus if he had not had Io and Mustang. He tells her, Titus had pain, but that's all he had. I had something more. Io's dream of a better world gave him a cause to fight for, and Mustang showed him that not all golds are cruel and that they can change. Darrow approaches Mustang, saying he did not turn his back on her. She argues that Darrow will kill her family, and that he wants genocide against the Golds. Ragnar threatens to kill Mustang if she shoots Darrow. Darrow begs Ragnar to trust him, but Ragnar suggests Darrow is not always right. Darrow says he is fighting for love and not revenge, then drops his weapon and kneels. Mustang urges Ragnar to fight her, calling him dog, and Ragnar responds with his backstory, how he got his 44 scars and how he lost 6 family members. He kneels alongside Darrow, and Darrow asks Mustang what she lives for. Mustang vanishes. Darrow rides in a parade honoring his accomplishments. Afterward, Augustus takes Darrow aside, and Darrow worries Mustang has told Augustus the truth. Augustus questions why Darrow delegated tasks to low colors, and Darrow answers the low colors could do things he could not do himself. Augustus says maintaining the social order is critical due to the failings of the previous social order. Augustus wants to preserve the human species and doesn't care how many die in the process. He wants Darrow to help and plans to have Darrow marry Mustang. Augustus admits he is making false promises to the reformers. Darrow inwardly seethes at Augustus's audacity, but agrees to go along with the plan. A ceremonial dinner is given in Darrow's honor. Sevro worries about Fitchner's absence, and Darrow sends him and Ragnar to investigate. Augustus toasts Darrow, and Roke comes forward with a box meant to hold Darrow's triumph mask. Roke addresses Darrow, speaking of their history together. Darrow notices gold disguised as pinks. Roke kisses Darrow on the cheek, drugs him, and says, "And thus go liars, with a bloody damn kiss." Antonia shoots Victra while the Jackal and Lilath kill Lorne, and Augustus's forces are killed as Aja and Cassius arrive. Victra crawls to Darrow and says she did not know about this plan. Cassius talks to Darrow, who can hear but not move, and admonishes him for killing his family including the children, but Darrow didn't know about the children. Octavia has ordered Darrow not be killed. The Jackal admits to killing Claudius, then kills Augustus after Augustus denounces the Jackal as his son. Darrow pleads with Roke, but Roke snaps, "The power of gold will never wane." The Jackal forces Darrow to look inside a box. Darrow looks into the box and sees Fitchner's head. And that's it for the summary of Golden Sun. In the end, Darrow didn't just rise, he shattered everything he built, and the war has only just begun. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on what you'd like to see next. Thanks for listening. See you in the next one.